Yo, everybody, what is up for another edition of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, and Mike Barrera over there. Obviously, here to preview the Union's game against Montreal on Saturday night. And also, we're going to look back at an incredibly frustrating loss in Mexico against Club America, and also last night's win against New York City, which Mike covered. Mike, obviously, overall, a pretty average week for the Union.
We have a lot to talk about. Last night was, as Jim Curtin said, the best win of the season. So we have a lot to unpack. There's some positive momentum now going into Montreal that kind of washes away the CCL loss. So I'm ready to just dive into this when you are.
I mean, obviously, before we dive into obviously look at the Club America game a bit and go into depth on yesterday, there's been a lot of news within sort of the Union community over the last week or so. Obviously, we'll start off with another player that's had a contract extension, and I believe is very well deserved. He's had some very good moments this year, as well as a couple of dodgy ones. But obviously, Olivier Mbaizo, his first full season with the Union, has officially signed a contract extension with the team. I'm not sure how long the contract extension is, but he's officially signed up for another couple of years, at least anyway. What do you think of the actual deal for Ernest Tanner and Jim to get that locked down?
I think it's great. We've talked about it many times how important the left and right back are for the club. I think we definitely need to see some more defensive growth from Olivier. We've noted him having some issues with marking his man, some set pieces, but overall he gives you a lot of flexibility offensively, gives you a good right foot when you cross into the box. So it's well deserved. He just lost a tooth, so if anything, he's really
Yeah,
poured some blood for this team, and I'm very excited to see how he grows his role in the next coming years.
no, absolutely. I mean, as you said, he's had some dodgy moments defensively, which I'm sure, hopefully, as he gets more experienced, and he's got an experienced right back with him as well, and Alvis Powell, who's played a lot of games, who can sort of guide him, nurture him, and sort of show him where
Yeah.
he's going wrong. Where perhaps just beforehand, before Alvis had come in, if he's making these mistakes, all he's really got is Jim in his ear telling him he needs to do better. Now he's actually got a player that plays in that position that can go, "Look, you made that mistake. I've done it before. This is how I got over it. This is what you should do better." I think that's going to be huge for him. But again, obviously as well, I think he's so important. As you mentioned, the two fullbacks for the Union are just so important to their attacking success. Like, if they both get in the game, they both get a heavy influence in the game, the Union create chances, they score goals. And obviously, we saw in Mexico, they perhaps weren't as dangerous going forward as you would like them to be. And
Oh yeah,
again, it
100%.
limited the Union's sort of attacking influence. But again, uh, obviously, it's a big moment for the Union. I think maybe as the season progresses, or maybe a couple of years down the line, we know obviously how good Baizu and Kai are going forward as fullbacks. Does that open up the potential for the Union to go to a three at the back or five at the back system, and then both playing wing backs? Because obviously, as we know, Baizo has his defensive frailties, or a bit frail defensively. That could perhaps help cover up where he's not so good, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see a change in formation yet, but I think as they progress and as they gain more experience, yeah, I could see that come into play for sure. I mean, certainly from the offensive standpoint, you have an advantage with Olivier compared to what you've had for the last X amount of years with Ray Gaddis.
Yeah,
So it's really exciting to see how they develop and move forward. And what you mentioned briefly on Powell, and I don't want to get too far ahead of us because it is part of the NYCFC review as well as the Club America review. But Powell has played very well in his place. So
yeah,
last night, I asked Jim specifically about Powell, and he said he made 10 to 15 big plays for that team, and he was excellent one on one defensively. And he had a bit of a, I guess, a brain fart when they almost scored the goal in the first half when he lost his man a bit in the box. But besides that moment, Powell was excellent. He
yeah.
really was excellent, and it's great to have someone not only in the MLS experience for Mbaizo, but he's also had international Jamaican experience for his club team. So he says, "Hey, listen, I'm older. I have experience in this league, outside of this league, internationally. Let me teach you and let me show you how it's done defensively." And
Yeah, exactly.
that's what you're going to see from Powell on that side of the ball. You're going to see a very stout defender. And now, when you're looking at the move earlier this year to bring him in, how important it is right now to have that depth on that side. So I'm really
yeah.
thrilled about what we have in that side of the pitch.
Exactly as you said, it's something that obviously it's been a good shrewd move so far. He's played a lot for Jamaica. He also played the Gold Cup for Jamaica, so
Yep,
it's not like whilst he's been away, he's just been sat on the bench with Jamaica not playing, getting a bit rusty because if I remember correctly, he got injured before he went off on international duty, so it wasn't
he
like he
got
was
injured
collecting
at
rust.
yeah he hurt his hamstring while with Jamaica.
But obviously, he played a couple of games with Jamaica, so obviously he was managed to get some. He was managed to stay fit in the sense where, well, getting match fitness and actually game time whilst he was away, which is I think was important from coming back. Obviously, Bizo
Of
was
course,
suspended on Saturday, so whether he no, oh sorry, on Wednesday night. Obviously, whether he's going to play on. Um, cheers, that's our producer Mike there. Well, former
there you
producer
go,
Mike
Mike.
went
You
down
know
with.
he watched the game last night. Come
Yeah,
on, biggest Union fan we have right now.
but he
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Major said obviously whether he plays on Saturday night. Obviously, as Jim's mentioned, Powell's been really good, very solid in the two
Yeah.
games he's come into. Um, well, perhaps Bizo comes back because it's a weaker opposition. Union can perhaps afford to be a bit lighter defensively and have him be um, more advanced in attack.
hmm Yeah, no, it gives you flexibility, and actually you saw a bit of Finlay last night too.
Yeah,
When Powell came up a bit limp, Finlay came in for just the stoppage time. But you've seen Powell do well, you've seen Finlay do well. Now you have two backups, so you have a lot of confidence in. And
yeah,
I don't think people realize how important that is because I believe a stat went out last night. Actually, I think I might have it on my phone when I took a picture of Kevin Durant um, on the screen. I believe
yeah,
it said that Glesnes and Elliott had played the most of any center backs in the entire MLS, so something along those lines. So
yeah,
eventually they'll need a rest. Eventually they will maybe, hopefully, knock on wood, they will stay healthy, but they might, be hurt one game. You need to have some
yeah,
security back there. So, I think we touched on it enough. The defense has a lot of depth. It has a lot of promise.
yeah. And obviously, as you said, it's got a lot of depth. I mean, obviously, Finley can play centre back, so can Alvis
Yep.
Powell. You've got Matt
Yep.
Rayal who can play both sides, and you've also got I think it's young Nathan Harriel who obviously he's been featuring a lot on the bench. He hasn't managed to get on the pitch yet, but again, there's a lot of depth for the Union. There's a lot of reasons to be excited for the team at the back, especially. Obviously, moving on, some big news that came out before the game yesterday
Yep.
as well, which I think a lot of fans. I mean, obviously, a lot of fans were a bit upset, obviously, with the discussions that Jamiro Montero wanted to leave the team to go back to Europe and be with his family. Came out that yesterday that he will be staying with the team for the foreseeable future. There's no what's the sort of word? There's somewhat no time frame of how long Jamiro Montero is going to be here for. But for the time being, he's going to be a
Yep.
Union player. He's still going to play. It was obviously great news to hear that his family has managed to come over to the US now to actually, obviously, be with
They're
him, and
here.
it allows. And obviously, it must have been a tough time for for Miro to have been going on for so long without his family there, and somewhat it can get lonely in these sort of situations. I can understand um, the sort of pain and suffering he's felt because I mean, it does take a toll not being with your loved ones, and obviously, I'm imagining he's got young children, so not being able to watch them grow up and
All right.
go from like, babies and toddlers into young children, sort of watch them grow. That's got to do a lot to a man. Obviously, he's clearly a family man. So I mean, it's great to hear that he's not only going to be staying for the foreseeable future and playing for the Union because we've highlighted so often just how good of a player he is, what he brings to the team. But
Oh
it's
yeah,
also great as well
definitely.
that he has his family with him now, and hopefully, maybe we saw, as you mentioned, as well, he picked up a bit of a knock in one of the games, and he sort of struggled a little bit. But
hmm
perhaps not having his family there finally took its toll on it. So what took away from his performance and his mind was elsewhere. Maybe now that they're here, maybe we might see a more focused Jamir Montero. I don't know what you
Well,
think
yeah.
about that.
So I was fortunate to be on the press conference last night, and Jamiro came up to the stand, and Matt George asked him, so can you clarify first what's with Jamiro? And we actually they asked Jim the same. The answers were a bit different. Jim said, he's happy to have them back. He's not going to go into much of the transfer talks, but as of right now, his future is to be decided. That's what Jim Curtin
Yeah,
said. Jamiro comes on the stand, and there was a bit of a technical difficulty from the Union press conference last night. So, and obviously Jameer has a bit of an accent, but from what we were able to hear, clearly, he's happy to be here. He mentioned that his family is
Yeah,
in the United States. He clarified, just as you said, but he mentioned, you know, always need somebody. You always need to have somebody in your corner, to somebody
yeah,
to be there. And when I'm a parent, I'm a father, and I can't imagine not seeing my daughter for a week, let alone as long as Jamiro has. And even just his wife being there. So they're here. He said, and I quote, "As long as I'm here, I will work hard for this club." So he may be here for another month. He might be here till 2 more years. Who knows how long Jameer Montero will be here? But as long as he's here. He's happy to be here. And you saw last night, he came in with a lot of energy. The fans welcomed him with a very loud
yeah,
round of applause. So I'm excited to see what he can bring. He is absolutely an important player for this roster. Even if he's playing, quote unquote poorly, he's still playing better than most people on the pitch. So
yeah.
it's crucial to have him back, and we're all really happy that
Absolutely.
he's finally got his family back with him.
No, but as you said, I mean, he obviously he came up and said he's going to give his all no matter what, and I think it takes a lot of guts for a player that obviously was in his situation to come up to the press and sort of or to the media and sort of explain the situation. You don't really see a lot
Yeah,
of players do that. It's very rare. So I mean, huge credit to Jameer Montero to actually have the balls to go up and sort of explain the situation, take questions on it. We know how hostile the Philly media can be sometimes. So fair play to him to actually having the balls to go out there and sort of explain the situation. And I'm glad that
right.
most people have somewhat somewhat of a have sort of agreed on his outlook and sort of shared sympathy because as you said, your father. I mean, you can imagine being without your away from your child for a couple of days, let alone being
That'd be awful.
away from them. Yeah, for a few, potentially over years. I mean, obviously, it's great to have Miro back. Great for him to actually have his family over here with him.
Yeah,
So hopefully that he could potentially be like a new
of
signing
course.
for the Union because we haven't really seen him at his best for a little while, and we haven't seen him in the team up until last night. So could be like a new signing in itself. And obviously his
Yeah.
contract, I believe, runs out at the end of next season, so he could be a potential uh, January transfer out to a European
Well,
team to get the Union some money coming up to the next season.
Well, it's funny. So you said one thing, and it kind of reminded me about Alejandro Bedoya's press conference. So, we are still coming off a COVID year. Where the pandemic is intense. Players are in a bubble. There's so many rules that they have to follow to make sure they're healthy,
Yeah,
and they're human beings just like we are. They have to go through their own, personal troubles, and you don't know how difficult it was for Jamiro to be away from his family.
yeah,
Bedoya mentioned how emotional it was to score that goal last night because of things outside of the soccer, and just his overall life and how important it was for him to finally get that moment. So as much as we wanted them to be robots and just score 5 goals a game and win every single game, they're not. They're human
no,
beings
yeah,
with families and emotions. So sometimes we have to remember that just like we are when we go to work, they have the same emotional turmoils when they go to work,
yeah.
and it's hopefully this gives Miro a boost. Bedoya's goal gives him a boost, and they can push this forward and have that clear sense of mind while they're playing soccer.
Absolutely, and as you said, they're human too. They have
Yeah,
families, they have lives that okay, it may look glamorous or they're on X amount a week, they're sportsmen, they should just have to suck it up. But look, I mean, sometimes like in their situations they've got families, they've got kids. If things aren't right for them. I mean,
that's
so I mean
right.
obviously it's great that Jamiro's happy, he's finally got his family with him and obviously I will back him and I'll support him for as long as he's with the union.
Of
Obviously there's
course.
a player who could be on his way out of the union. A player that we
Yeah, right.
a player that we haven't seen in a long, long time, and I don't even know what's even going on here. I mean, obviously the Italian or the European. Don't know if the MLS and people in the US take these concussions a lot more seriously than perhaps in Europe. But obviously, Jack DeVry, who's still in concussion protocol, has been now for about 4 or 5 months.
It's been
Is
all season. Yeah.
all season pretty much, and before is potentially going on loan to Venezia. So that could be. What do you think of that? Obviously, for a player that, no disrespect, he's not exactly a prolific player for the Union. He's not exactly played too often. What do you make of it?
I thought it was kind of weird. So for people who maybe are new to soccer or don't understand it, it's as if Andre Dillard was being shopped by like for a starting left tackle from one of the top teams in the NFL. For an example, it just seems
Yeah,
like he doesn't play much, but yeah, he's getting overseas recognition. Um, I know that. I mean, I'm not an expert in it, but from what I'm hearing, there
Jesus.
is some sort of American influence from that
Yeah,
team. So I can see. I guess that's kind of put into play in all this. But it kind of, I think, caught all of us off guard. Like, okay,
yeah,
DeVries is getting attention, and it's something serious, and it's actually might come to fruition here. And I believe, if I remember correctly, Fontana was also getting looked at by the same club or a similar club. And please correct me if I'm wrong if anybody's listening, but it's great for him. It's great for the academy. It's great for the union, especially because he's basically down the roster now in terms of who's going to be selected every single week. So yeah, go overseas, get some minutes. It's a loan. He can come back to us with
yeah,
some more experience, with some more skill set, and come in and contribute to the future of the Philadelphia Union. So
exactly.
go for it. I'm happy for him, and I wish him the best. And when you kind of talked about the concussion protocol, clarify a bit. Jim has mentioned that it's the header test that he has to pass. Essentially, they have to go through the specific header test, which Fontana had to go through, and same with Jack, to pass through concussion protocol. So until
Yeah,
he finishes that, he's not going to go to be cleared. I don't know why he hasn't been able to do it. I don't understand if it's mental, if it's something physical. No idea. But that's
yeah.
what Coach Curtin has said
Mm,
about Jack.
I'm interested to see what sort of what DeVries' role will be with Venezia because obviously
Yeah, seriously.
they've just been promoted to Serie A. They're going to want to stay up. So I mean, he might end up being a B team player and just sort of seeing what they have because obviously it's a loan, and if he's impresses, the union can get a transfer fee. But I mean, obviously, I'll be shocked if he ends up being a starter, considering no disrespect, he can't really get into the union team, and he's going off into a league where it's obviously a very tough league, and it's a tough league for promoted teams to actually establish themselves. And we see
Right.
in a lot of European leagues, not just the Premier League, but Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, where a lot of these newly promoted teams they might step a year, then they get relegated the next year. So I'll be interested to see what Venezia's um, sort of outlook is on DeVries, whether they just view him as potentially like a rotation sort of player for now and move him on.
Yeah.
But obviously, away from DeVries, some other Union transfer news. I don't know if you're watching the Eagles game, Mike. Devontae Smith,
No.
I think Devontae Smith has dropped his first three passes or failed to catch his first three
Uh,
targets. Um, yeah, so
Uh-oh, drama. Sports radio tomorrow is going to be going crazy over preseason game.
go Birds. But
Go
obviously,
Birds.
Jesus Bueno is obviously. I think he's still looking for his visa. It's the same as
Yeah.
Darvo as well, which is a weird one, obviously, because Darvo was available to play in Mexico. But I don't think, obviously, the visa rules must be different with Mexico in comparison to the MLS when the rules in the CONCACAF Champions League.
I thought Dava was cleared to be on the lineup. Again, I know I was on vacation, so I apologize for being a bit
Yeah,
rusty on my union news this past week. But Bueno, I don't know what they really haven't given us a timeline for when that's going to be complete with his visa. Davo, is he going to crack the 18, the starting lineup, the bench? I don't know
yeah.
yet. But as you saw last night from Casper, and we'll get into the previews, we need some offensive help. We need some midfield help. So I'm just looking forward to these guys being here and just giving us some minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one, obviously. I don't know, obviously, with Dart, obviously, speaking of Dart, obviously, with Bueno, it could be a lot of the same issues that we had with Garsdag. Because obviously, the Garsdag
Yep.
signing was rumored to have been done in May. It didn't get completed until about July, mid July time, or even just a bit before that. It took a good couple of months for the team to actually officially sign Gazdag. So I imagine, obviously, they've announced Bueno, they've announced Darvo.
Davo.
Not too sure what's gone on with Darvo's um, visa either. Obviously, I'm presuming the CONCACAF Champions League rules are a bit different. But obviously, it will probably take a bit of time for it to go through and actually be confirmed.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, we have a month until the next CCL game, so hopefully they get some time here
Yeah.
with the MLS squad and
Yeah.
prove that they were worth the loan.
Yeah. Obviously, sorry, just Smith just made his first catch. So anyway,
About time.
Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
right.
but the Eagles game is quite interesting. That a couple of the starting wide receivers are actually playing into the second quarter here. But obviously, looking as well, moving away, obviously Fontana, he's been out with concussion for a while.
Hmm.
Great to see him back into another option, another attacking option for this team that have
Right.
struggled going forward in recent weeks. We'll get on to Mr. Casper Shabirko in a bit because I mean he's been getting a lot. Um, what's it called? He's getting a lot of flack. He's getting a lot of criticism recently, even with the goals. I think he'd scored like 3 or 4 goals in successive games, but still. Fontana again, it's another option. Are you excited to see the Union homegrown player back?
I am because I think we've seen it in terms of football and other sports. Competition is great for all the players that are involved. It's good to have
Yeah,
competition. It's good to have depth. It's good to have options. So, and then we'll segue kind of a bit into the Club America review now, as you've mentioned Casper, and you mentioned the lack of depth that we have. Fontana is important for this team. We saw how good of a spark he was off the bench last season for us. So
yeah,
maybe it gives lights a fire under the starting lineup. It's like, hey, there's another guy on here who can come in and take your minutes. So
yeah.
start to producing. But we'll kind of segue into the Club American review now. I know everybody was disappointed with it. It was obviously the biggest match in the club's history. Now that you've had a
Uh,
couple of days to digest it, Dave, how do you feel about the match overall?
I don't think that. I mean, that didn't do too badly. I mean, obviously, yes, Club America dominated the game possession wise, but I mean, barring a few chances in that second half, I genuinely can't think of many chances that Club America had. I think the Union controlled that second half so well. They didn't let they. I think Club America might have had one big chance in the second half. They controlled that second half so well. They kept the ball. They took the sting out of the game, and Club America looked like they were going to take over and dominate like they did in the first half.
Right.
And then they had a couple of chances as well, obviously. And then Jose Martinez, the most ridiculous. I mean, he. I might not, even if it wasn't a penalty, it deserved to be a penalty for what he did, and it was just so stupid. On the edge of your box, you can see there's 3 or 4 players coming in and closing you down.
Yeah.
Just play the ball back to the goalkeeper, play the ball to Glasnez or Elliott, and just get the ball away. Do not try and turn. Do not take any risks on the edge of the area. You're leaving Mexico with a 1-0 loss, and you've got a doable game back at Subaru Park. Even if you do
Right.
concede, 3 goals is manageable. You can get 3 goals. I mean, they can go all out. They've shown they can do it against Atlanta United. They've shown they can do it against Saprissa. No matter how good they are, if you can do it, they can do it. So he loses the ball. Okay, the Union managed to get the back in their numbers in the box. Then
Yep.
he dives in, going across the man. What's the one rule that you get told? If you lose the ball, don't dive in inside the penalty area. Just don't dive in and give the player an excuse to go down. What did he do? He dived in, he slid across his man, and he gave the player the perfect moment to go down. And the referee gave a penalty because he clipped the bottom of his foot. I mean, this and everyone could say it wasn't a penalty. It's harsh. It was unfair. He he put the team and himself in the situation to give away the penalty, and frankly, it was deserved for just how stupid it was. You tell kids not to do that, and don't do it. It's the basic fundamentals of the game. Don't slide inside your box, and he did
I
it.
don't even have anything to add to that. I love the emotion and the intensity that you just put out there because you're right. It was funny because earlier in that half, he had one moment closer to midfield that he had some nice footwork, some nice trickery, and he was able to kind of push the ball to the other side of other side of the field. And I saw someone on Twitter commend like, "Wow, Brujo really does have great footwork. He can really put together a nice run by himself by creating something out of nothing." But when you're 2 feet away from your box, that is not when you try to create something out of nothing. That's when you get the
Huh.
ball and you send it out. And you said it perfect. I'm not going to add anything else to it. Um, but it's frustrating when you see it in back-to-back weeks or back-to-back matches, rather, because if you remember in New England, Leon Flock does something stupid in the box, and they get a
Yeah,
penalty kick. Now you have 4 days later, and Jose Martinez does something stupid in his box. Now, yesterday, I'm not going to try to damper on this win, but he had a very strong diving tackle, sliding tackle in the box that he was lucky to clear out without any issue. But
yeah,
that's what you get from Jose Martinez. As good as he can be, and he was great last night, he's had some amazing moments for this club. He can also just have a very stupid play on top of that, or a bad
Yeah,
turnover, or just now that's his thing. He turns the ball over in the worst spots, or just
yeah,
the worst moments, or he's trying too hard to push the ball forward. And I think if you had left Mexico with a 1-0 loss, nobody would have been upset because
no,
nobody thought you were going to win that game. They were plus 600. They should not have won that game,
no,
but nobody would have been upset with a 1-0 loss.
no. I mean, it overshadowed what was a it was a solid performance. Obviously, as you said, no one would have been upset. I think most people would have been happy with a 1-0 loss, and everyone would have said they can do it in the second leg. I mean, honestly, if you look at it, it's just the way that they lost the game 2-0. If they'd have gone 2-0 down within the first 30 minutes or 20 minutes, you'd go, they lose 2-0, you go, okay, thank God they didn't get twatted 4-5-0 and get battered.
Right.
We'll take the 2-0 loss. But it's the fact they were literally 5 minutes away from going back to Philly with a 1-0 loss, even a 1-1 draw. I mean, listen, they could have ended up, listen, the final 5-10 minutes, they could have piled the pressure on
They
and
could
just
have,
said,
yeah.
screw it, we could get this goal. Because Club America were going backwards and backwards and backwards for a bit. And then obviously, given that one moment, and Club America recontrolled the game with the goal. And obviously, the Union couldn't get much going forward. But I mean, it's just the manner. I think it overshadowed what was a good performance, obviously. I think
And
when
it's
people
funny.
so I
No,
say when
sorry.
people look back at that night, they won't remember it for Andre's massive saves, the incredible hard work that the likes. Obviously, yes, Bedoya was a yard behind a couple of times, but the hard
Yeah.
work the likes of Bedoya, Fluck, even Martinez, the fullbacks, everyone put in, it will be remembered for that stupid 20 seconds that Jose Martinez had that ultimately has cost them the title because if they end up losing 3-1 if they end up winning 3-1 at Shrewsbury Park, or they win 2-0, or do you know what I mean? Everyone will go, if they had that away goal, though they only lost 1-0, they'd have gone through. And that's my biggest worry now is if they end up winning 3-1 or concede a goal and that penalty ends up costing them, I think that's gonna be a big sting to a lot of fans.
Well, so you have to remember too with Jose Martinez is that he cost us points against New York City as well earlier in the year when he had the elbow
Yeah.
to give him the red card. Last year, we've said this before with a few fans. Jose Martinez will be a player who will make great defensive stops, but he will also cost you a game or a point here or there. So far this season, he cost us a game against New York City. Now, now that's also really important now because if you look at it, we are now tied 31 points with New York City, who has a game in hand on us. And if we had just drawn or gotten a tie against New York City earlier in the year, you'd be 32 points and they would have 31 points. You would be
Yeah.
clearly in second place, assuming that everything else fell into place as it has already. So there are some players in any sport, it doesn't even have to be just soccer, any sport that you take the good with the bad. Martinez is 100% that profile. You have a
Yeah.
lot of good, you have some bad, and I I'm just praying that they pull it off. Not just because I want to see them make the final. I just want to see them just push away from their mistakes and make up for it rather than knowing
Yeah.
that we shot ourselves in the foot. And it was just something stupid for the first goal. It was a soft penalty call for the free kick. The wall does its job and blocks the shot. And then it just ricochets off Gazdag, and next thing you know, you're down 1-0 after
Yeah. That's one of
you had avoided being scored on for 15 minutes. So it was frustrating on the unfortunate part. It was frustrating on the
yeah.
mental mistake, and uh, and one of the big things too, and that people may not remember, or maybe not remember, but maybe not realize, losing Mombaizo so early affects the way the
Yeah.
offense performs as well as the defense. So everything changed when that first goal went in and when Olivier came out. And
Yeah.
it's one of those matches you're just like, it just wasn't our night. Simple as
No.
that. Was not our night.
Listen, I mean, obviously as well the penalty shout as well with um, Corey Burke being shoved in the back and going down. The referee looks at it and goes, "Not a penalty." 30 seconds later, Powell
I
does the
mean, it
exact same
wasn't a
thing.
penalty. Sorry, Dave, but I
Power
mean,
does the exact same thing and then gives the free kicks. You're just looking for
right,
the
right.
consistency in things. But I mean, You've seen them given. You've seen those given. You've seen the shoves in the back given, or
Yep.
those have been given plenty of times. I think with the way that the game was officiated that night, it was quite a soft game. I mean, a lot of free kicks were given when perhaps they might not have been given in other games. You just think it was that sort of game where you could have seen it given and it wasn't given, and then obviously it happens 30 seconds later and the referee gives the free kick. So I think that's where the frustration comes from, is the fact that there was no consistency.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have people who are not soccer fans watching the game and messaging me saying, "Man, I don't watch soccer, but the officiating here is pretty one-sided." You're right. It is one-sided because there were some calls that were not really good calls at all. And I can say the same for Club America, and I can say that the Union maybe got away with one or two calls, but it was definitely leaning towards Club America. But
Yeah,
you, at the end of the day, you can't blame the officiating entirely. It
no,
We didn't do enough. And one of the things I put on the agenda today, and we're kind of going to use this as a segue into New York City game, Casper Shabilko. I have defended Casper online a few times, and I still will defend Casper. And I have a quote from someone from the Facebook page that I'm going to read about Casper Shabilko, which I think summarizes it well. But I want to get your opinion on Casper from the Club America game, and I want to
yeah.
segue into the New York City game. So I'm going to put that banner up now. Casper Shabilko, the last two matches. What would you grade him? What would you think about it? What would you say about his performances?
I mean, I think he probably has to go for a 5 or 6. I mean, he obviously hasn't contributed much to the team. Obviously, I think you can understand it more against Club America in those sort of games. He's going to be isolated. Not going to have much of the ball. So when the ball just go up to a player like Gilberto, the ball is usually going to come straight back to you because he's not as mobile when you just get hold of the ball. He hasn't got the pace like Santos to turn and attack. And obviously, when you get the ball and you're on the halfway line, everyone else is on the edge of the box. You've got to then try and hold off 3 players to give the ball back to another player. So I
Yep.
can understand that game. Obviously, NYCFC wasn't as impactful as you perhaps would have liked him to have been. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just he's going through the works at the moment. He's struggling a bit, isn't he?
So I'm going to read something. So for the people who follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, Michael Borton is a very devoted Philly fan for the Union. He's very vocal with the players and his thoughts, and I respect his opinion a lot. So he posted on Facebook earlier today about Casper, and I think it summarizes who he is as a player as well as what we should expect from him. So I'm going to read it to you verbatim now. So Mike said, he relies on service, and if the service isn't there, he has to drop him to the 9 to get service. But then he's caught because he's surrounded by defenders and can't get a shot off, so he passes it to the wings to try to create service for someone else. Sergio is probably the only striker we have that can create his own chance, but his passing and his footwork isn't there. I'd be frustrated too if I had to do that. He's a poacher, and poachers aren't respected because they're looked as lazy, and that's at every league and level. He's just streaky, which we knew coming into it. I don't see him ever stop working though. He always wants a goal. Do you think that's a fair assessment of Casper?
Absolutely, I think I've said it before. He's the classic poacher where give him a chance and he will score. He's hit the nail on the head there. I mean, Casper is a player that he is frustrating to watch sometimes because he doesn't. He's obviously not in the game, but I think he's hit the nail on the head. For a
Yep.
player like Kim, he gets isolated up front, and I said to you, I've said it on plenty of times about Sergio as well. The Union lack a lot going forward without a player like Sergio because he can create his own chances. We saw it in the game in New England where literally one long ball forward, where obviously we've seen like Elliot has literally just played one long ball forward up the pitch,
Yep.
and they had a corner because Sergio Santos managed to get the ball and just take it up down the wing and win the corner. And we saw it against the NYCFC as well, where no NYCFC, sorry, Club America, where there was a long ball forward and Santos's pace managed to get him beyond the defender, and it forced Ochoa to come out and kick the ball out for a throw in. Obviously, they're two completely different players, but I think, as you said, I think he hit the nail on the head. I mean, Zubirko's obviously he's a poacher, but again, he's selfless at the same time. Where if he can't do it, he wants someone else to be able to be in a position to do so. We've seen it plenty of
Right.
times with him being in good positions to perhaps have a shot, but he believes another player's in a better position, so he'll just lay that ball off and recycle it and try and go again. I'm excited to see. I'm hoping to see, not excited, I'm hoping to see that he can perhaps get back into form and the service can improve in the next few weeks.
So I completely agree with what you're saying. There are some fans on Twitter, Facebook, who just roast Casper all game long, whether he does
Yeah,
something good or bad. And I get it. He's a striker. He's paid to score goals, so I 100% understand why you're saying this because that's his job. But Casper does so much for this team that is not going to show up in the stats
yeah,
or not going to show up, on the highlights. Um, he is a big body. He does make a defender constantly stick on him one on one because if he does get free, he can put it on net.
yeah,
You saw it in Club America. And there was one um, sequence where he had two clearances with his header, and then he was able to make a defensive stop off a corner kick or something along those lines. But he had
yeah.
three defensive moments in a row to help the team get away from trouble. He does offer a lot to this team. I don't like when people come out at him and say he was lazy because he's not. You see how hard he works
No,
for
yeah,
certain balls. Does he stop running sometimes? Yes, I will completely concede that he does at times stop running, which we've seen a
yeah,
couple times in his career with the Union. But overall, I think people want him to be a playmaker like Santos. They want him to be some major goal scorer. He's not that. He's a streaky
no,
goal scorer, like Michael Borton said,
yeah,
and he's a poacher, and he
yeah,
needs to work alongside somebody else to create his shots. He cannot create it by himself all the time. Aside from like the Chicago game where he had that third goal for the team,
yeah,
um, I think he
yeah,
just gets too much heat.
yeah.
It's not fair.
No, I agree. I mean, obviously, you said he's a poacher. He's a player that I was going to say he's a poacher. He's a player that he's streaky,
Yep.
and He's a poacher, but he's a target man. He's not, as you said. People say he's not fast enough. He's a slow player.
Yeah,
So
yeah, a little bit.
he's slow. I mean, like, so if you're watching, like,
We
compare it,
saw it yesterday.
if you're watching him closing down and Santos closing down, we know that Sergio Santos is really quick and he's gonna be rapid. So, Shibirko's not. I mean, if the Union are pressing, and you're like, oh, Shibirko didn't go from this man to this man, didn't track the ball, or didn't get there quick enough like Santos does. Of course, he's not. Santos is a different league when it comes to the pace. Sibirko is a more technically gifted footballer, and as we say, he's a classic poacher. He's a classic striker. Give him a chance or give him two chances, and he'll put one in the back of the net. And we've seen it in countless games where he's had one chance. The Orlando game, he's put the ball in the back of the net. The Saprissa game in the first game of the season, had header into the back of the net. He
Yep.
had two chances in Atlanta, He put them both into the back of the net.
Yep.
The win in DC. He just needs that one chance, and he'll score. And he's done it plenty of times this year. I mean, listen. I mean, obviously, people are going to be upset and be like, "Oh yeah, he's not scored like 4 games in a row." Strikers struggle. Some strikers do struggle, and they don't. Um,
We saw it with CJ
things don't go their
Sapong a
way.
lot. We saw
Yeah,
it with him plenty of times.
and I mean, I think Shabirko's. I'm not sure what goal Shabirko scored this season. Let's have a look. Um, oh,
I
that's
think
not
he's
dated.
scored 5 or 6 in the MLS alone.
Yeah,
And
I
I know
think
he
he's
had he
scored
had
that.
he had 5 in the Concacaf, right? Or was it 4?
Yeah, he's got 5 in the Concacaf, and I think he's got
Okay.
6 so he scored 11 goals this year, which isn't too bad. But I mean, yeah, it's just getting chances, and obviously that also then you've also then got to look at the players around him that aren't creating enough and aren't putting him in the best situations to succeed. And
Right.
it's easy to dig out the one striker that it's easy to dig out the striker that's not doing it. But then you got to look around at the teammates beforehand and ask, why isn't the service as good as it was at the start of the season? Why aren't players creating chances? Why, I mean, if you watch these games when the Union down late or they've got possession out of the pitch late, why aren't these players putting balls into the box when Shabirko is in good positions and then waiting 30 seconds and then wasting an opportunity and losing the ball?
It's a. I don't want to cut you off because I know you're on a roll here, but just like any other sport that's a team sport, it is a part of a team, and the Union
Mm,
especially are a team. They don't have a prolific player
no,
that can take over. They are a team oriented movement, both offensively and defensively. So
yeah,
we've mentioned how many times on the show, Dave, Bedoya not playing that great. Okay, that's one. You have Gazdag still learning the team. That's two. You
Yeah,
have the fluctuation between Santos and Burke. You have Jamiro playing so-so on certain games. You have Flock or somebody else on the left-hand side there are so many components to this team that
yeah,
surrounds Casper. So you can put blame on him. Like for example, he misses that goal early on in the CONCACAF game. Was it 3 minutes into the match against Club America? Right there, if they had scored the goal, everything changes. So I
yeah,
understand that maybe he should have played that better. But throughout the rest of the match, it's not like the team around him was playing amazing and he was just messing up passes.
no,
Nobody else was playing that great.
no,
Solid, sure, but then the attacking third wasn't exactly dangerous that entire
no,
match. And I even said it on Twitter. It's like if they're going to score a goal, it's going to be off a set piece. It's not going to be because Santos creates a chance and scores a goal because
yeah,
that's just not how they were playing that night. So that, I don't know. I don't want to harper too much on the Casper thing. I think
yeah.
it deserves to be discussed because it is such a polarizing conversation for a lot of fans. I see both sides of the coin. I get it. I'm just happy that it's happening now. If Casper's going to
Yeah.
go through a cold streak, I want to have it now and not towards the end or the beginning of the season.
No, exactly. And I mean, as you said, obviously it's not the other players well, but then obviously he's up front on his own. Obviously, I know Jim in the games in the difficult games he likes to play Santos as like a attacking the field winger style player as opposed to a second striker. So I mean, like obviously against Copa America when it's Gilberto against three or four defenders, and then there's a long ball coming, and it's not an accurate long ball. It's not like so Gilberto could be in the centre of the pitch, and the long ball's going over to the left back or the right back, and he's stood by the centre backs. He's not going to get that ball. You're literally just giving the ball back, and when you do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many components to things that in those sort of situations, and people can go, "Oh, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't help out." But I mean, again, as you said, it's a team game. There's so many different components. Like he gets isolated up front in the zone a lot of the time. So hopefully we can see him getting some more of a run over the next few games. And talking about the NYCFC game, it was a big game last night.
Wait,
And
can I stop you there real quick? We have a special announcement from the union. So I just saw on the Facebook page it says the return of Ray Gaddis for Saturday, August 21st against Montreal. This Saturday night is alumni night. There will also be a celebration of the achievement to return high school soccer to Chester over a 30-year hiatus. We're going to turn the river end to we're going to turn the river end orange at the 30th minute for 60 seconds. Orange cards ready to go, printed with a Chester Clippers logo and have
yeah,
instructions printed on the back. So Ray Gaddis is back in town this Saturday. I just want to announce it because it just got posted on the page 5 minutes ago.
mm,
But let's segue into New York City FC right there. Um, Speaking of people coming to town, Kevin Durant was in town, Dave.
yeah.
The best basketball player on the planet was in Chester last night. What did you think when you saw Kevin Durant out there?
Um, I mean, obviously, it's quite. I mean, it's obviously good. What's that? Sort of good press for the union. Obviously, they're getting a lot of. Obviously, Kevin Durant's not only just a big figure in America. He's a symbol of the basketball, isn't he? He's a big public figure in
Yeah,
basketball.
just won a
So I
gold
mean,
medal.
he's gonna garner interest not just from America, not just from people locals in Philadelphia, which I'm sure that got talks about on Sport Radio this morning. Don't know if you listen to Sport Radio, Mike, or not, but I'm sure that Kevin Durant was in Philadelphia.
They
Was at
probably
the Union
didn't.
game.
They probably didn't because Philadelphia radio sucks. But Bleacher Report did post about it that Kevin
So,
Durant was in
yeah,
Philly. So I'll
but they
take that.
posted about that and not Bedoya's goal. Obviously, well, I'm
Of
sure
course.
that Philly Sports Radio discussed Bedoya, not Bedoya, KD being at the game, but not the actual result, obviously. But obviously,
Right, exactly.
it's good interest, and obviously the union can use this as a marketing ploy now. I mean, they can even attract first-time fans. Well, come meet Kevin Durant at a tailgate, come get a picture of Kevin Durant before the game, part owner, or whatever. I mean, it's obviously a nice selling point to get fans there. Obviously, the team as well. They rode obviously. Known as Kevin Durant, they got to see a union win. Ali Bedoya, the captain, scored his first goal of the season.
Yep.
So obviously that's huge. But obviously the Union, obviously, it was a first half where, let's be real, the Union weren't the better teams. New York
No.
had the better chances. They created some very good chances, and you can easily argue they should perhaps have been a goal or two in front at half time. Do you think they're? Do you agree with that? Do you think the Union are quite lucky in
Yes.
terms of getting out there with a 1-0 win?
Yes. People. Okay. So I'm going to say this a little delicately because I don't want to piss people off. But the reality of the matter is the Union should probably have tied that game 1-1. In my opinion,
Yeah,
that's a fact. Is it the best win of the MLS season so far? Yes. It was an important win at home after a tough loss in Mexico against a team that was literally 3 steps ahead of you in the standings, and you needed to do it to tie it. The
yeah,
result does not change in terms of the importance. I don't think they played that great for half the game. I'm sorry, I don't.
no,
If Powell loses his man, if I believe it was Rodriguez, and I'm about to pull up my article now to confirm that,
yeah,
he had a clear shot at net. And there was a chance earlier in that half that was called offsides that the shot was sent off the post.
yeah,
Now, we've seen it time and time again. A player scores a goal, it's ruled offsides, VAR comes in, says it wasn't offsides, that's a goal. So let's not try to act like they didn't just almost give up a goal within the first 20 minutes on two
yeah,
different occasions. Let's not pretend that they weren't passing that great within the first 30, 40 minutes. I think lucky is exactly the word we should use after that first half. What do
yeah.
you think? Am I being too harsh on after a
Oh
win?
no, no, absolutely not. I mean, obviously, you saw the chances they created. They actually, I think, the NYCFC had the better chances throughout the entirety of that first half last night. I think obviously not only was that chance, they had a couple of chances in set pieces, a couple of chances in the breaks where the Union got lucky. So I mean, yeah, I mean they got. I mean, it was a big let off for the Union to get in 0-0 at half time. Obviously,
Yep.
but I mean, obviously the Bedoya goal was obviously nice to see half through the first half. I think, yeah, obviously the Union only had half the chances the NYCFC had, but I mean, it was good to see. Obviously, he's had a very frustrating month and a half now. He's gone from beloved captain, fan favorite to sort of not a bit villain, but a sort of a take him out, put him out of his misery sort of guy at the moment. But how good was it to see? How good was it to see Bedoya finally not only get on the score sheet, but somewhat get back in people's good books and be spoken about highly of again, as opposed to oh, for fuck's sake, Bedoya was crap again last night. Another terrible passes, couldn't keep the ball. It's just today we're going. That's a great piece of work from Bedoya to work his way into the box and score the header. It was great to see Bedoya, working so hard for the team. I mean, for you as a local fan, how great is it to see?
It's huge. I mean, so after the Club America game, it might have been the game before that, there was a discussion on the Facebook fan page about Bedoya. And one person mentioned how you should respect Ali as much as possible when talking about him because he's
Yeah,
earned that respect. He's, in my opinion, within the last 5 years, he's the best captain that any Philly sports team has had. And that includes
yeah,
the Sixers, the Flyers, the Eagles, the Phillies. There's no captain that has been better for their franchise or their club than Alejandro Bedoya. And
yeah,
I will say that against anybody who wants to argue with me. But the emotional side of soccer or any sport is not win you a championship. The players and the performance is what wins you a championship.
yeah,
And Ali has been a step behind. You saw that against Club America. There were times when he just looked like he was, in his mid 30s, which is fine. That's
mhm,
part of, aging as a player. But he's had his ups and downs this season, especially with the passing, with being behind, with being gassed,
yeah,
which may go down to Jim Curtin's responsibility as well. So it's not just like all on Alejandro. But last night, I actually thought he played pretty well last night. And
yeah,
as the goal aside, and he comes in, he scores a huge goal in a game that was very back and forth, and he puts the team in position to gain those 3 points at home. So
yeah.
I'm thrilled for Bedoya. Hopefully, this is now the beginning of him being a more of a factor offensively.
Yeah. I mean, again, hopefully, I mean, it's still going to get to a point where he needs a break. I mean, he keeps playing every week. I know Jim obviously feels he needs to rely on him. He's a captain. He, as you said, he needs to be relied upon to, do X, Y, Z, whatever. But I mean, it's going to get to a point where he does burn out. I mean, he's 34 years old. I keep saying it every week, but he played great last night. But again, he needs to rest. He needs a rest. Obviously, I think he must have played apart from injury. He must have played like mo- almost like 60, 70 games, successive games. Um, do you know what I mean? At that age, it's ridiculous, obviously. But I mean, at some point it's going to catch up to him. I think we have seen it catch up to him over the last few weeks. And again, I don't know if Jim just refuses to, if it's sort of like a blind love and blind trust with Jim or not. I don't know if I'm being too harsh on Jim, but obviously it just seems like he refuses to rose tinted glasses. He refuses to see the bad. He only sees the good. No, that makes sense.
No, I agree. And look at last night. So I'm looking at my report that I wrote last night. Powell goes down in the 80th minute. After that, Finley comes in for Alvis, and Ilsinho comes in for the captain, basically in stoppage time at that point.
Yeah,
So you're right. He does need a break eventually. He had a bit of a break against New England, which is fine, I guess. He played for about 50. He played for about 45 minutes, give or
is
take.
that
If
it?
you,
Yeah,
he obviously had
mental.
a grueling match in Mexico. Then he plays a very tough match in New England. I'm sorry, against New York City, and now you have Montreal coming. Montreal is right there below you on the table. It's not like it's just an easy match. You can kind of put your subs on and just hope it works out. You have to
Yeah,
play Montreal strong. You have to get 3 points again, and then after that, you play. Oh my God, my brain's going. I think it's DC United the next Saturday.
yeah,
Please, my phone will upload so I can tell you exactly who they play. On Saturday the 28th, they play DC United in DC United in Washington D.C. rather. So you have two matches ahead of you that do have some sort of implications to keeping yourself, in third place, second place. So I don't know when Bedoya is going
yeah,
to get a rest, if he's going to get a rest, unless they're up 2-0, 3-0. So yeah, I'm concerned for Ali. I want him to be there. I want him to continue to play well, but you need to rest him eventually.
yeah. I mean, obviously, nice segue into the Montreal game of the weekend. Obviously, another big game for the Union. At the moment, they're just playing teams in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I know my family friend was actually at the Montreal game against I think it was New England. Yeah, no, New England, New York. I think they played New York at home. Yeah, they beat New York 2-1. My friend was there, obviously. Very, very big win for them. Obviously, a late last gas winner from former Premier League and Kenyan midfielder Victor Wanyama. But again, they're going to run Union close. They're a very up and down team. I think we've seen it over the last few years. They lack consistency, but that pack in the sort of between third and seventh is split between 4 points.
Yep.
So as you said, like a literal win could put Montreal in within sniffing distance of the top three places.
So you mentioned it just now, and I pulled it up because I knew you were going to talk about it. So last night, I guess the table hadn't adjusted. So
Yeah.
Nashville, their point actually put them at 32 points.
Jesus. Yeah.
NYCFC and Philly are now third and fourth. So, and actually Orlando's at 31. So you have one, two, three teams at 31 points. Nashville's at 32. DC United and Montreal are at 27.
Yeah.
And that's a top 7 teams in the East. Montreal, when you're looking at their numbers, you have 1 second here. Philly and Montreal have a total goals of 26 goals scored this season. Goals against Philly obviously has a better defense. They've only given up 19, while Montreal has given up 25. And you can argue that 2 of them were own goals, so you can even say 17 if you really want to get particular with their defensive presence, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But Montreal can score. I mean, they can put up some numbers,
Yeah.
but they also can give up some goals. So this is a game where they come into town, and looking at Montreal's schedule right now, they played on Wednesday against Cincinnati. They drew against Cincinnati 0-0.
Yeah.
So they're coming off the same exact rest as us. Now they have to travel to Philly to play against us at
Yeah.
8 p.m. on Saturday. So this is a huge match because they are currently, and I'll reiterate it again, they're at 27 points. If they pull off a win, they're now 1 point behind you. If
Yeah.
you pull off a win, you have 34 points, and now you're jumping Nashville pending their results. So it's a massive match for
Yeah.
this table.
Ooh. Yeah. I mean, as you said, obviously, but if you look at Montreal's form, I mean, they've got quite good home form, but they're a road form. 0-0 draw at Cincinnati, 2 undefeated DC in DC United. DC United. 2-1 loss at Inter Miami, 2-1 loss at New England, 1-0 loss against New York at
City.
New York City away. Obviously, drew to Nashville. Their last road win was the 29th of May. So this is a game that you have to look at and go, okay, we have to win. They're not very good on the road. This is a must-win game, obviously, as well for the Unionary, but they have to look at this and see this as a game they can't lose at home. Obviously, it's one of the gimme games home for them between now and the rest of the season.
So right now the line is minus 165 Philly, plus 260 for a draw, and plus
Yeah,
420 for the Montreal win. So you're pretty significant favorites in terms of the soccer betting world.
yeah,
You shouldn't lose this game. Period.
no,
It's simple as that.
no, exactly. I mean, as you say, obviously, they have to win this game, and obviously got another couple of games away at DC, and they're at home against New England again. They play New England again.
Yep.
I know everyone will be sick and tired of starting New England, who are obviously home and dry, pretty much at the top of the Eastern Conference. But then, I mean, they're 7 points clear in terms of the MLS Shield as well. So, I mean, they could be the Supporter Shield teams winners coming out at the end of the regular season. But, I mean, don't want to get too far ahead, but obviously the
Right.
Union play New England on the 4th of September. They've got 12 days rest. So, I mean, looking at these next three games for the Union, obviously, talk about Montreal and obviously DC and New England. Does this team go 110% and just go full out to win these next three games? Doesn't matter about rest, just win these three games. We've got 2 weeks off, or
I feel like you have to. Okay, so it's funny. So looking at the schedule, right, and going back to what we just talked about, they have Montreal, DC United, New England, and then the next game, which is 12 days later after New England, is Club America.
yeah,
12 days later. So this is not like we had last time where you had and New England, then a few days later you had Club America. You have a full 2 weeks to recover before Club America. You go all out for these three games, in my opinion.
yeah,
There's no reason why you shouldn't try to get two wins of the three and maybe pull out a draw in DC.
yeah, seven
You know,
points or around there.
yeah, why not? Because there's no longer that rest factor because you're going to have such a long rest before you play Club America. The
Yeah,
next MLS match after that is against Orlando Sunday night, which would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 days after you play against Club America at home. Luckily,
yeah,
you're home against Orlando, so you go to win these games. You know, well, I guess in terms of our preview and our predictions, what do you think this lineup is going to be like on Saturday with
um,
Casper struggling? Do you put Corey Burkin and Santos? What do you think is going to happen this Saturday?
it's a tough one. Obviously, quickly go through the looking at the Union team again from last night. Obviously, I'm pretty sure they went unchanged from the side that lost in Club America, maybe apart from obviously Bizo. We'll probably see Bizo come back in at right back instead of Alvis Powell.
Yes.
Apart from that, I can't see any other changes. I think Curtin's a very stubborn manager when it comes to changes. Even if, like, I mean, it's true. I mean, like, he's obviously, he doesn't like to make changes to his team. Even if the team's struggling, he'll stick with the players that he's got. He
Yeah.
might make one or two changes, but like, with a lot of teams, not just in America, but in the UK and stuff as well, a team could go and lose 4-5-0 or like 3 or 4-1 and get battered, and they'll make 6 or 7 changes the next game.
Right.
Jim's very different. Jim will see his team lose 3-0 and go, I just made the one change. So I think I can't. There's gonna be one change. I imagine it could be Shabir Kof for Burke. But then again, does Jim want to maintain Kasper's sort of confidence and stick with him through his tough spell, which would be an interesting one to see. Might rest Flark for a game, might rest Miss Martinez for the game. Who knows? But I can't envisage him making a change.
I think we saw a little bit of the Casper leash being tightened the last night, though, because
Yeah,
Casper came off a lot earlier than he usually does, if he does at all,
yeah,
last night. Which I thought, some people give Jim Curtin, I would say, some reluctance in terms of how good he is with his substitution. Some people are fine with it. Some people are not. And I think that's fair on both sides. I think sometimes Jim makes substitutions too late, or he doesn't make the right substitution, and we've seen that over the years though with different rosters. So I'm not going to push on him too hard about it.
yeah,
But last night he made the right substitutions at the right time, and one of those was getting Casper off the pitch early.
Yeah.
because he just wasn't doing anything offensively. So we've talked about how much Burke and Casper are similar. This might be a match where you say, you know what, Casper, why don't you take a break? Why don't you
Yeah.
take a day off? Just clear your head, come back against DC United refreshed, and have Corey Burke, who played well before he went to Jamaica, get
Yeah.
himself some more minutes and see what he and Santos can do together. Because he's a big body just like Casper. He deserves the same amount of attention as Casper. If anything, Corey can make more happen by himself compared to Casper because Corey's
Yeah.
strong enough to make something happen. Because you've seen him body people up plenty of times. I think if any change is made, I think it's definitely Casper, and I would say Montero probably goes back to the left spot, and Flock comes off the bench.
Yeah. I think I can see that too. It's obviously going to be a interesting week for the Union. Obviously, I think as well. For score predictions, I mean, I'll quickly segue into that. I think I'm going to go confident. I think they're going to win 2-1. Uh, Goal scorers, I think Santos will get in the score sheet. And I'm going to say if he features Jameer Montero.
Well, there you go. The family man with his family back home has some more juice under him.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets a goal. Okay. I think that a 2-1 win would be okay. I don't want to see Montreal score
No,
because I
yeah.
think at home against DC United, they had a shutout. At home against NYCFC, they've had a shutout.
Yeah.
So you've now built a bit of momentum going forward. I don't want to see Montreal score at all.
No.
I want to see them suffocate teams at home and build the momentum up so that when New England comes to town, even though, and that's the thing, you kind of talked about it previously, and I didn't really answer your question. New England is by far going to win the Supporters Shield pending any sort of major collapse. They're, I
Yeah.
think, 7 points ahead of. They're 7 points ahead of Seattle. They have
Yeah.
46 points. Seattle has 39 points.
And on top of that as well, it's not like they've got continental sort of priorities.
Right. Yeah. It's, don't worry about New England at this point in terms of trying to catch up to them. You want to, like I've mentioned before, you don't want to go to New York City to play an away playoff game. You don't want to go to Nashville to play an away playoff game. I don't mind so much if you go to Orlando. I do mind if you have to go to Nashville or NYCFC. So that's the
Yeah.
priority, getting to that position right now. But I want to see this team put together 90 minutes of suffocating defense. That's what I want to see. Not last
Yeah.
night where you barely got away with a 1-0 win. I want to see them push it to the limit.
Yeah. Absolutely. And obviously, I think, as you've said, this game is just important of building confidence, rebuilding it back up, going into these next two games before this 12-day break.
Yep.
So suffocate Montreal. Don't give them a sniff at the back. Stay solid, and obviously it'll be a big night for Glesnes and Elliott to keep them shut out, and protect Andre Blake, which has nothing much to do. But I think we pretty much covered everything for this week. Obviously, we've both gone for confident Union wins. Me for 2-1. I think you got 1-0 or 2-0.
Yeah. I think
So
that's what you should win no matter what.
yeah, just win. I think just win.
Just win, baby.
Build up some confidence, and then just go into DC United with the hope that you can get another good result. But obviously, to end the show, we've got to get paid. So we're looking at it. So our first, all about the birds. Obviously, sponsor is Manscaped. So if you want to get the man in your life the perfect gift, we're getting the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right. The Lawnmower 4.0. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. Imagine surprising your man with a sleek, well-designed and optimized body hair trim that says, your balls will thank you. That's 20% off for free shipping at manscaped.com and use code AATBirds. And with OddsJam is the number one software platform for sportsbook bandits. Their software shows you how to make risk-free cash off the likes of FanDuel, DraftKings, and other sportsbooks with the arbitrage calculator. So never lose a bet again. And sign up today at oddsjam.com. And then with Statement Games is another cool website that What About the Birds has a partnership with. So check out Statement Games for a fun new way to play fantasy sports and entertainment with gift cards, prizes, and more. And it's free to sign up. So sign up at statementgames.com. and obviously 99 jerseys, and that's very popular with All About the Birds, especially one of our hosts, Chip, which you can watch on Mondays with Chips and Dish. Obviously, go to 99jerseys.com and get 20% off your next order by using discount AATBirds20, and check out the wide selection of quality kick-ass jerseys of your favorite sports movie characters, and throwback jerseys of some of your favorite stars. So again, order today at 99jerseys.com and save 20% off by using the discount code AATBirds. And obviously, we also got the All About the Birds shop, so you can get your across the pitch gear. I don't know if it'll be coming up in a second. There we go. Cross the pitch gear.
Sexy.
Cross the pitch gear. Then if we've got the other.
We got one
yeah,
more.
We've got that one as well. There we go. Pow! So obviously get your across the pitch gear. Get all your other All About the Birds network gear from all of our shows at aatbirds.com/shop. And then obviously All About the Birds social media. We've got such a wide range of social media accounts: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We've got the lot. So follow, like, and subscribe all of our social media accounts, and share all of our platforms to your friends, families, just to carry on helping us grow our brand for all the greatest and latest content on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. So if you missed the show, you can catch all of our content on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or you can even rewatch the whole thing on Twitter and Facebook. Either or, you can watch it just like we've done it tonight, like you can on YouTube, on Twitter, and Facebook as well. And also subscribe to All About the Birds to get notified of new content, leave us a review. And obviously some big news for the All About the Birds network. We're actually somewhat rebranding ourselves. We're becoming the All About the Sports network, because obviously we're going to keep the All About the Birds domain, because obviously that is the primary Eagles sort of content page. We're also going to branch out to All About the Sports, because we cover the Union, as me and Mike do, basketball, 76ers, the Phillies, NFL, the draft, college football. There's so much that we cover. So obviously it's a chance for us to sort of expand our horizons.
That's right. Yeah, Dave, this just got announced to us today by our network. So we are pushing the brand. AAT Sports _ is a Twitter handle, and I'll put it up again for everybody to see. AAT Sports _
Give it a like and follow yet. Give it a follow. Give it a like on Facebook. Look on. I don't know if there's a YouTube channel yet, but there probably will be one soon. So make sure to like, follow, subscribe. Not only me and Mike, not only the guys at All About the Birds / all about the sports. Make sure to like everything. And hopefully, we'll be speaking to you guys next week after a Union win against Montreal. So go Union.
Go Union, dupe. Now here's a commercial from Manscaped.
Attention, listeners across the galaxy, all the way from Australia to Houston. Do we have a pube problem? If so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation and brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet with the Performance Package 4.0. The orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get your rocket ready for takeoff by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds. Ready for an out-of-world experience, fellas? Look no further than the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped that has just taken off in not only the USA, but Canada, the UK, across Europe, Australia, South Africa, and Singapore. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your whole solar system. First, scheduled for liftoff, new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. This spaceship is here to guide you on a journey to trim your body, balls, butt, and even Uranus. This 4th generation trimmer also features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, can engage a travel lock, and is even waterproof. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 4000K LED spotlight you can turn on and off when needed for a more precise shave throughout your travels across the universe. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker. It's like having a little astronaut to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ear. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Don't forget to use Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and their Crop Reviver to help your little planets be on their A-game while feeling the sun's heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Abort hairy balls and Buzz Lightyear that Woody with Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBirds at manscaped.com. For a clean trinity and beyond, your Spaceballs will thank you.